You ready? All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I'm Sherry Taylor. I'm the president and CEO of the Mason Deerfield Chamber. Welcome to our candidates, to our voters and our citizens. Can't stress enough to our voters and citizens, we need people to get out and vote. This is really important, so thank you for being a part of this process, all of you. The intention of this evening's forum is to provide views and priorities from the local economy perspective as the Chamber. So we encourage candidates to remember that opening and closing comments provide a forum for you to share any other areas of importance that we aren't covering. We also have candidate profiles posted on the Chamber website at madechamber.org that all of our candidates completed. So if anyone would like to dive into a little bit more information on the candidate profiles, those are available. It is now my pleasure to introduce my co-moderator this evening, Dwight Packard from Graydon.
Good evening. My name is Dwight Packard. I'm an attorney at the Graydon Law Firm, and I'm also a member of the Mason Deerfield Chamber. It is my pleasure to be a co-moderator for tonight's forum. Welcome to all of our candidates and to all of the members of the public who are joining us tonight. ICRC-TV is here filming the forum, and the Mason Deerfield Chamber will be broadcasting the forum from a link on its Facebook page as well. Our purpose is to allow the public an opportunity to get to know the candidates for Mason City School Board and, later this evening, the Mason City Council. We've worked hard to be fair and informative in our format and in our questions. If you leave here tonight both informed and motivated to vote, this evening will have been a success. Good luck to our candidates.
Thank you, Dwight. Just to go over some of the forum ground rules so that everyone knows how we're going to be moving things along this evening. Amanda Oltman, Director of Communications with the Chamber, here to my left, your right, will be acting as our timekeeper. There will be a 10-second time warning card, and then when your time is up, she will politely ring our bell. Oh. Hopefully the bell is working. The format for tonight will be opening comments with 2 minutes each for each candidate, starting in alphabetical order. We will then go through a series of questions that we'll mix up, and we ask each of you, we will generally provide a 60-second response time unless otherwise noted. Once all candidates have responded to the question, if noted, each candidate will have an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal. It's important to understand, though, that we're going to go through all of the responses before we move to the rebuttal period. We may also have a lightning round where questions will just have a few word responses, so please keep your responses quick. We also reserve the right to ask follow-up questions if the Chamber is trying to seek further clarification on a response. We will end things with a 1-minute closing response. So for everybody out there, we will have approximately 30 minutes for the first portion of this program, beginning with our Mason City School Board forum, and approximately 75 minutes for the second portion of the program for our Mason City Council forum. Did we forget anything, Dwight?
I think we're ready to begin.
All right, so let's kick things off with our candidate opening comments. Each of you, if you could please provide us with your opening comments, and it'd be great if you could include in there as well why you chose to run for this office. We will start with Ms. Ayada and end with Ms. Yingling.
Good evening. Okay. Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me thank the Mason and Deerfield Chamber for hosting this forum tonight, and thank all the Mason citizens for coming out. My name is Noha Ayada, and it's spelled N-O-H-A, not N-O-A-H, as I've been hearing it for so many years. And I'm not related to Noah's Ark, although if you come visit my house, you can shop for as many pets as you like. I'm a Mason mom who has been living here for the past 6 years with my husband and 3 children who go to the Mason School District. My senior, who is now getting his college applications all lined up, and my 6-year-old twins who are in 1st grade at the MECC, who are keeping me very busy driving them around in my minivan, just like many of you. Which brings me to the very pressing question, which I've been hearing a lot very recently. Why am I running for the Mason School Board? Well, today the majority of the board consists of lawyers and accountants. Is this a good representation of our diverse, fast-changing community? I also cannot escape noticing the huge workload stress on the teachers and the nature that it passes onto the students and their families. Only a Mason mom can feel that. As a medical doctor, I'm very aware of the opioid epidemic and how it spreads fast into our community, and it's much faster than we need to, and we need to put proper measures to protect our kids. I'm a naturalized American who came to this country bringing my dreams to make a new life for my family, and therefore I'm running to promote diversity. It in itself is an evidence that everybody in the school should be treated equally. Diversity also means bringing fresh perspective representing changes in the community, in our community. We need representatives from the community on the board to define policies. Well, you and I live in our Mason community, and you deserve the best public community service you get in our public schools. I appreciate you voting for the Mason Mom. Thank you.
Mr. Galvin.
My name's Charles Galvin. I've been a resident of Mason for about 7 months now. Before I moved to Mason, though, I grew up in the Westchester community. Noha just touched on a diversity of thought and perspective to the school board. For those of you who don't know me, I will reveal a big surprise here today. I am not the product of public education. I actually attended all parochial and religious-based schooling growing up. So I have a little bit of a different perspective in terms of what to bring to a public school board. That being said, obviously, my family moved here in large part because of how strong the reputation for the Mason schools were, and it was a big draw for us. My wife's a teacher in Lakota schools. She actually student taught in Mason growing up, and can't think of enough good things to say about her experience with Mason. And the same thing goes for me because I actually spent 5 years coaching the Mason Manor A swim team as an assistant, met a lot of families and folks who are actually teachers in the Mason school program, and have only had positive experiences. That being said, once we moved over here and I started really considering a run for the school board and getting to talk to some folks who had had more in-depth experience with the Mason schools, I came to learn that, not everything's perfect or as great as it seems from afar. I've heard from a lot of folks different issues and things that are important to them, things they'd like to improve upon or change, and I take all of that into consideration when I approach a potential position on the school board. Professionally, I'm an attorney, and I think that work experience and the education that led to becoming an attorney is something that helps me prepare for this role, listening to folks, hearing their perspective and arguments and things like that, and approaching it with an open mind before making a deliberate and strong decision. So my daughter Liddy's not yet in Mason schools, but she will be one day, and I'm running because I'm wanting to imagine the next generation of education for Mason and all the generations to follow.
Thank you.
We're getting feedback in the monitor. Is it out there too? Or
Yeah, there's a little bit. Okay.
can you maybe kill this mic and just use those two?
Or it could be too. Could you try holding the mic maybe closer to you?
There's feedback even when we're not talking. Yeah. Sorry, everybody. That was probably a good idea to share with somebody else because two attorneys probably can't share very well, maybe. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you to the Mason Deerfield Chamber for hosting this event and to Dwight and Sherry for moderating. I think the question that sort of drives this discussion more than any is the one that you posed to us, and that's why we are running. I've been on the board since 2011. I was appointed to fill out the term of John Odell, and I ran in 2013 for a full term and was lucky enough to be elected to a full term that year that I'm serving out right now. And quite simply, it's been the biggest honor of my life to serve this amazing district and the amazing community that it serves. I am married. I am married to also a teacher in the Lakota district. She teaches 5th grade math, and together we have 3 children. A 6-year-old daughter who is a 1st grader at MECC, and twin 4-year-old boys who can't wait to join her next year in kindergarten. I'm an assistant general counsel at Fifth Third Bank. I care deeply about the community, and I'm honored to be considered for another term on the school board. We're all proud that Mason is one of the best districts in the country, but we're not about to think that we've got it all figured out or rest on our laurels. My work has always been focused on growing and moving forward, making sure that Mason is always consistently great. The thing that I sort of talk about the most is that at the heart of every decision that I make and every conversation I have on the board, what drives me the most is what the impact of that decision or that action is on the experience of the teacher and the student in the classroom. Because at the end of the day, that is the heart of everything that we do, and therefore it's the heart of everything that I do on the board. So to keep us consistently great, one of our most important things is to support our teachers and support innovation in the classroom. So that's resources, but that's also inspiring them to try new ideas and supporting them with the funds and the opportunities to let those new ideas play out. I'm humbled to be a steward of this district's finances and our taxpayers' resources, and I would greatly appreciate your vote to continue serving this great district. Thank you.
Good evening, and again, thank you to the Chamber for hosting tonight's event. My name is Connie Yingling, and I am currently a member of the Mason City Board of Education. Thank you for taking the time tonight to listen to the candidates and hear what they have to say regarding their views of the job and their goals for the job. I am a Mason mom. I have 2 graduates from Mason, and I have 3 young grandchildren that I thoroughly enjoy. My work on the Mason board has truly been a labor of love. I've been returned to my seat 4 times by the voters because I believe I have proven my commitment to the job by communicating to the voters that they are valued by me. Schools belong to every member of the community, whether or not they have children in the schools or grandchildren currently attending. School districts can and often are one of the most important assets of any community. And in the case of Mason, I believe our staff has done an outstanding job of doing just that. Excuse me. I believe that my experience and my integrity and my personal commitment to each and every citizen of our community has helped Mason become the great school district that it is. And I believe that I can offer more of the same in the next 4 years as we move from a district that was growing at an incredibly rapid pace to one of stability and innovation that will provide our students with an even more robust educational opportunity. It will be a challenge, but it's one that I'm confident our staff and our students are up for. And we need a board that has the same vision and the same commitment. I'm a candidate that has proven that I am ready and capable to support them. And I ask for your support as well by returning me to the Mason Board of Education.
Thank you. For our first question, we will be starting with Ms. Yingling and moving our way back to Ms. Ayada. Each of you will have 60 seconds to respond to this question, and once everybody has responded, you will each have 30 seconds for rebuttal. With employers struggling to find talent that is workforce ready, what types of programs or courses do you favor that best prepare students for the future workforce? Ms. Yingling, 60 seconds.
First and foremost is kind of an obvious response, but it's one that we've taken seriously on the board in preparing our facilities, and that is technology. Our students have to be prepared for technology, and more specifically, they have to be prepared for the STEM fields, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. That is becoming a greater and greater need in our job force. In another way that I think that we can help our students get there and get there more quickly and at less expense is by working harder. We already provide opportunities for many of our students to get college credit before they graduate from high school. But doing more of that will allow our students to be able to enter the workforce more prepared and sooner, which will help out the job market, help our employers meet all of their needs.
So I think the first step in answering that question is to continue the dialogue that we've already started with our local businesses, and the MAID Chamber has been a big part of that and helping us continue that conversation to identify what specifically those needs are. because Mason is a district that is known nationally as a district that prepares our students exceptionally well for college. Now the question is, are there things that we should be thinking about in different ways to prepare our students for the workforce? I mean, there are students who a four-year college degree might not be the most appropriate avenue for them after high school. And so I think one of the key things is to have an open dialogue with local employers to see what gaps there might be in the candidates they're seeing for jobs, and is there something that the schools can do to help fill that gap. But aside from that, I mean, Connie's right that we're focusing on technology and real-world experiences. CAD, AutoCAD, advanced AutoCAD, I mean, you name it, the technology courses that we have that are providing real-life examples, and our experiential learning programs with Deb Gentine are phenomenal, giving people real experiences in the workforce.
I think there's, is this one cut?
Is it not on?
Try the other mic.
I can't share.
I think there's no question that on a broad scale, the workforce in America and around the world is moving towards STEM and automation. More and more jobs are becoming mechanized, and things that people used to do by hand are quickly being replaced by machine. I think Mason does a great job of incorporating that stuff. I know they incorporate maker spaces and encourage sort of an entrepreneurial spirit at a young age, which is fantastic. One thing I would love to see Mason continue and improve upon and not lose sight of is the role of soft skills in the workplace. And by that, I mean sort of things that we maybe take for granted as we grow older. I've had the experience and the privilege to interview young people trying to enter the workforce, make the transition from law school into law firms and the practice of law, and something not just in the practice of law, but in all different areas of the workforce that I think is an issue today is making sure that we don't take for granted things like reliability, communications, relationship strengthening, and things like that.
Well, today's job market is already tough enough for all the college graduates. And look into the future with all the artificial intelligence and self-driving cars and genetics and technology coming along beyond us. And with the current imaginations, we have to prepare these kids to take upon all of that for the workforce needed. So, for example, what if we partner up with the local universities like Ohio State, UC, Xavier, Miami, or even local businesses such as the big companies like GE and P&G to create internships or classes and training courses for the high school students to get ready for the next part in their life and their next chapter. And like imagining AP kids with genetics offered jointly by Ohio State and with an input from P&G, for example. So I just believe that public-private partnerships can give better opportunities for our kids in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. I think it's important to remind everyone, as we touched on at the beginning, that these are the types of priorities that the Chamber's got at the forefront right now. And so having this dialogue with you is something that we're very grateful for. So thank you all for even thinking about these things and obviously making it such a priority and things that you're thinking about right now. So we'll move on to sort of a speed round form. Oh, I'm sorry, rebuttals. I am so sorry, I forgot. You should have kept me under control there, Dwight. Does anyone have rebuttals?
I do real quickly, if you don't mind.
Good. 30 seconds.
Yeah. First point, Charles, you're right that one of the important things is the soft skills, and what I'm most amazed by our students is that communication skills actually set our students apart. So I'm super excited about the fact that in a super technical world, our students are learning in a very real way how to communicate with other human beings in the context of this technology world. So it's fantastic. And Noah, you're exactly right that internship opportunities are key. That's why our experiential learning series and our opportunities continue to expand every day, and I'm proud to have supported that. Thank you.
Additional rebuttal?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling, 30 seconds.
I think that our internships are key and our business partnerships are key. And one of the small, maybe unnoticed things that can come out of that, students find out what they like and what they're interested in, what they're good at, but they also, just as importantly, find out earlier what they don't like and what they may not want to do. I also think it's important that we keep an eye on the skilled trades, electricians, plumbing, a numerous group of those trades that I think the labor force is experiencing some shortage with now.
Mr. Gallivan.
Two things that Connie just said that I think are excellent points and wanted to touch on are that finding out what you don't want to do is just as important what you do want to do. I spent the first 3 semesters of my college experience as an athletic training major before I switched to English because I passed out at the side of a video in my anatomy class. And that was one key to me finding out where I didn't want to be. And too often we get lost in the classroom without really getting into the real world experience. Another thing is, as we don't forget some of those vocations and trades, student loan debt is something that really impacts us. And I don't know that a lot of our student population has a real appreciation for that. So that's something too we need to inform them on.
I'll just add one extra thing to all of that, and it's really when kids try out what they want and learn what they need to do, it eases their life for the rest of their lives. I keep telling my kids, just do what you have your passion in, because that's what you're going to be spending the rest of your lives doing. If you love it, you're going to be happy. If not, then you're going to be miserable for the rest of your lives. So keep trying until you find what your passion and what your heart falls for.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, everyone. Apologies again. In speed round form, this question is designed to have just a few words response and no rebuttal. So we're going to start with Mr. Galvin and move this way and end with Mr. Steele. So just to reinforce, I know some of you mentioned it before, but how long have you been a resident of the Mason City School District?
7 months.
6 years.
About 28 years.
8 years.
Excellent. And now starting with Mr. Steele, and then moving to Ms. Yingling, and we'll end with Mr. Galvin. Each of you will have 60 seconds to respond. Again, no rebuttals. What do you believe is the most pressing issue for Mason City Schools, and what would be your role in addressing this issue? Mr. Steele.
So when I joined the board, it was in 2011, as everybody remembers, it was a trying economic time that required some significant sacrifices on the part of our staff, our administration, the board, and our community. We had to say goodbye to, we decided to say goodbye to Mason Heights Elementary. We froze some salaries in cooperation with our staff and really looked at what we were doing and made some plans to shore up our position. And I'm proud to say that we've come out on the other side even stronger. So looking forward, and that was following a levy defeat in 2010. And so since then, we've been laser focused on the changing financial landscape with the state and also local opportunities for different revenue sources. That is the key issue that we're going to be facing in the next few years, is keeping our eyes on that, keeping an eye on our forecast, and seeing the changes with the biennium budget, how that affects us locally, and how we need to deal with that and navigate it.
Yeah, I would agree with Matt that our financial health is going to be at the forefront of the challenges in the next few years. We historically have been a school district that spent a little bit less than the state average per pupil. With the challenges financially that we have in funding education, both in terms of the state's model of funding, as well as tax burdens for communities, I think we may not be able to stay below the average, but I hope to stay near it, and I think it's a responsibility we have to stay near the state average. I think we need to lobby at the state level, and we need to really consider the tax burden for communities as a separate piece of the funding formula. There are many ways the state looks at communities, their wealth, but you can have a district that may fulfill the wealth requirement, but the tax burden is way over the top compared to other districts. I think we need to be careful and we need to lobby for that. We need to do that in Mason.
Ms. Ayala.
Well, as a Mason mom, I'm still concerned about the teachers' work overload and the class sizes and and what it's taking its toll on both the teachers and their home lives and the students and their families. So we cannot be asking taxpayers to pay more and overloading the teachers and not giving the students the time each one specifically needs. And some parents actually intervene for their kids to excel. So we need to find a better platform which addresses all these concerns. We are really investing in our kids' futures. The medical doctor in me just is very more concerned. Once again, I go back to the opioid crisis and to the ADHD and the kids who really need that extra intervention. And there has to be district accommodations which will play a key role in, that can be implemented to help those families and kids.
I would also say that I think that the financial health of the district and finding stability in future funding for especially the core functions of the district, we're blessed that we're in a district that can offer a lot of great services, not just for quote unquote your average student, but students with special needs and students who are gifted. And I think the key to continuing to offer those great services as well as our core functions as a school district is maintaining stable funding and working with our local state representatives and the legislature in Ohio. Something that I learned coming into this process, I had no idea that the state funding formula in Ohio was deemed unconstitutional 20 years ago. And as you kind of weave through the different leadership roles that have come through Columbus since then, there have been some efforts at fixing it and tweaking it, but nothing has really head-on directed it in a way that that is satisfactory to a lot of school districts, and that includes Mason.
Thank you. To end this portion of tonight's forum, we're going to give each of you 60 seconds to give a concluding statement. We're going to proceed alphabetically with Ms. Ayada to begin.
At the end of this forum, it has just become obvious to me that every child enrolled in our school district is a reason for me to run for school board and a reason for everyone to go out and vote. As a Mason mom, a medical doctor, and a naturalized American, I want to bring through opening the window of diversity. I want to bring change. I want to bring some good change, very much needed change in our changing community, and very much demanded change from so many residents in our community. And I feel this is the dynamic time for it. I'd like to introduce that new voice, that new perspective, and new ideas on the table that probably were never heard before. I feel like being the one with the different looks in the name of NOHA may attract some people to be curious into learning more about me and know what I have to offer them. And it's probably maybe funny that I'm actually a doctor, not a lawyer or an accountant. I'd like to thank the Mason Deerfield Chamber for giving me that opportunity. And one last big thank you to my dear husband and my family and my kids and all of my friends and helpers for all their help and support in making me do what I'm doing right now and running this. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today and running for this. So I really appreciate you voting for the Mason Mom.
Mr. Galvin, 60 seconds.
Well, I won't put Matt on the spot, but if NOHA is running as the Mason Mom, I suppose that makes me the Mason Millennial. And I would hope that in addition to the qualifications that I bring to the board, I've touched on them tonight, I'd encourage everybody to go back and look at the questionnaire that all of us filled out in more detail. Obviously, a lot more information into our backgrounds and our experiences and things like that. Something that I think I also bring to the board, again, is a new perspective, is a new generation, somebody who is interested in coming in and taking a more in-depth role in their community and hopefully getting the next generation of Mason parents, Mason students, Mason educators, and frankly all stakeholders in the community, whether they have children in the district or not, involved and in tuned and making decisions for the betterment of our schools and our community at large. So thank you, Mason Deerfield Chamber, and I'll hand it off.
Mr. Steele, 60 seconds for you.
So this may be a continuation of the earlier point about why I'm running, but I wanted to point out two things that inspire me the most in this role. Oftentimes we will have students share some experiences with us at board meetings, and those are by far the best meetings of the year. And I am continually amazed at students who step up and take initiative on their own and do amazing things that I never could have dreamt of doing. And I know that that is inspired by their parents and inspired by their teachers. And I'm just humbled and thrilled and honored to be in a position where my work is to preserve that experience for our current students, but also to preserve the experience for children like mine and Charles and Noah as they go through the system to make sure that they have as good, if not better, an experience than our current students. So I humbly ask you for your vote on November 7th to allow me to continue to serve in that way. Thank you.
Ms. Yingling?
Thank you, Chamber, for again this opportunity tonight, because I do think it is really, really important that voters know who the candidates are and what the issues are. I would like to add one more point to tonight. We are facing a great deal of change every single day, and change is coming faster as time moves on, and we need to make sure we're prepared for that, and we need some stability. In our current staff, as partners with our parents, it's a great tool that has gotten Mason to its high ranking and high performance levels, and I think that we need to protect that relationship and nurture that relationship as a board so that we can continue the high standards and the leadership that Mason is in the educational field.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all again for being here, and to touch on a statement just made about how change is constantly on us and approaching us. The Chamber as a whole is so grateful to be back in this opportunity, in this space, to be more involved with our school partners. We've held candidates forums for years, but we actually have not partnered with our local school districts for quite some time. So this is a really great way for us to show how important the relationship is between the schools and the businesses in this region, and we greatly appreciate all that you are willing to do to serve our community. So with that in mind, thank you again for being here. We're going to go through a quick stage change up and invite the council members to join us on stage, but to also reiterate, candidate forum questionnaires, they are on our website. There's a lot more information out there about our candidates, so we encourage you all to educate yourselves a little bit more on our candidates. So thank you again for being here. We greatly appreciate you. with 2 minutes for opening comments, and then a 1-minute closing comment, and a series of questions in between, which will have, most of them will have 60-second response times, and some of them may have a 30-second rebuttal. And there may also be a couple of lightning round questions. We will end this forum no later than 8:30 p.m. So with that in mind, we're going to start 2 minutes opening comments, and we will start with, in alphabetical order, with Mr. Bradburn.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the Chamber, and thank you to the people that are here in the audience, and hopefully some people that will be watching on cable. My name is Tony Bradburn, and I'm a candidate for council in the City of Mason, and that's why we're all here. And I have been elected to Mason City Council twice, serving from 2003 to 2011. I was going to go ahead and read kind of a little bio, but it's kind of a rehash of probably what some people will end up getting in the mail and have already seen if they've watched ICRC. I think one of the reasons I moved to Mason is a number of years ago, I looked around and I said to myself, and this is after questioning from the former city manager of Mason, I said former, why did you move to Mason? Okay. And the answer was, I thought it would be the blue ash of the future. And I think I picked that pretty close to it. But on city council, I think you need to be more than just a person that sits up there and takes a piece of legislation and looks at it. And I have to go back to my college days. I hate to, and that's a long way back. And we had a president by the name of Warren Bennis. Some people may remember that name. He was the president. He had a book called Agent of Change. And an Agent of Change book was just how people would go in and change organizations. And when I read it as a college student, I basically said, this guy's nuts. But the bottom line is, I became an agent in change. I became an agent in change in city government. Things that had been done before needed to be corrected, and I stuck to my guns when they needed to be corrected. I initiated new things, not only here in Mason, but in Springdale, that basically benefited the people. So a council member needs to be more than just a person that sits up there and reads the legislation. They have to be an agent of change, positive change for all. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Chance, and I've had the privilege to serve on council for the past 2 years. I am a longtime Mason resident, been here for 37 years. My father, who is a retired colonel in the Air Force, was stationed here back in 1980. And I'm glad and very grateful he chose Mason for his home, because now I get to raise my family in this beautiful neighborhood. And I have a wife, Beth, of 9 years, and 3 beautiful children, Samantha, Austin, and Avery. I was fortunate to go through Mason schools, K through 12, and that's actually one of my biggest objectives, is to continue to foster that relationship with the schools and their leadership. I think we have a huge example right here in the community center how that's a big win-win for both of us. Graduated from Miami University, and I started my first company in 2002, and I've been building it ever since. I've got a company called Eco Development. It's headquartered right in downtown Mason. It's at 123 East Main Street. And then we have a 60,000 square foot warehouse in the old Blackhawk building, where we do wholesale and then recycling and distribution. This is what I believe is my biggest value that I bring to council, is my philosophy is the city should run just like a business, and I will continue to make sure that's how we view the city, just like a business. Over the past couple years, I've been able to serve on economic development. And this is where I believe Mason separates ourselves. Through our strong economic development strategies, we've been able to keep our taxes low for our citizens while enjoying, I believe, the best services and amenities that a city could ask for. People ask me all the time, what is it you like being on city council? And my response is pretty consistent. I believe we've got the most talented and dedicated city staff a community could ask for. And so something else that is near and dear to me is fire and safety, and I would love to know, or I would like police and fire to know, they will have my 100% support with me on council. So thank you, God bless you, and thanks again for you guys hosting us tonight.
Is this working? Very good. My name is Mike Gilb. I want to thank the Chamber for having us here tonight. Certainly a great opportunity for everyone to get to know the candidates and the issues that are facing our city, but I am Mike Gilb. I'm running for an open seat on the Mason City Council. I'm running because I see a lot of the same problems in government that we see everywhere. Tax burdens that are too high, spending that's out of control, and family values that are under attack. And I'm here because I believe we need conservative solutions to meet the challenges of our time, and we need leaders who understand these values and who will fight to secure them. I believe that serving in public office demands honesty and integrity. Whoever we elect should be someone known for keeping his or her word. I formerly served as a judge in the Warren County Common Pleas Court. I've also served as a state representative. And I remember during my first term as a state representative back in the early 2000s, we were dealing with a big budget hole. There was a $1 billion budget hole in the state budget. And I remember there were two solutions to try to solve that. One was to raise taxes, and the other was to cut state spending. And I remember the governor calling me at home one day, and he said, "Mike, I need you to support my plan to raise taxes." And I remember saying to the governor that I couldn't do that because I had promised the people that voted for me that I would not raise their taxes. And I went on to vote against that bill, and those efforts were recognized by the United Conservatives of Ohio, who awarded me a Watchdog of the Treasury for standing up to save taxpayer dollars. I want to say I'm a compassionate conservative. I want to conserve trust in our politicians and hope for those who are tempted to become cynical of our democratic processes. I want to direct our public dialogue toward concrete solutions to the problems that we face. I want to conserve strong marriages and strong families by supporting parents in one of the most important and difficult tasks in our society, raising our children. I would suggest to you that all of the candidates will say that they are conservative. The only difference is that I have the experience fighting to secure those values. Thank you.
Someone once said, the choice in politics is the choice between a known witch and a suspected devil. Now, I'm not up here implying that any of us up here are witches or devils, but I am acknowledging that the choice is difficult, it's tough, and you have to do your homework. And I just want to say that I want to say thank you for taking time out of your day today to be a part of the process, being here, and being a part of the community. So, my name is TJ Hunterlaw, and I'm running to be your representative on Mason City Council. A little bit about me. I'm born and raised here. Actually, right across the street where the intermediate school was where my grandpa's farm was. I'm a third generation Masonite, and I've seen a lot of changes here. I have a large extended family. Some of them are here, and deep roots. I want to work hard to see Mason grow and prosper, but at the same time protect our heritage and charm. I'm a dad of two terrific teenage boys, and I did just say terrific and teenage in the same sentence there. I'm a Christian, and my faith is extremely important to me. I am a conservative candidate. I'm a constitutional, social, and fiscal conservative. If you're not sure, that means I'm also pro-life and pro-Second Amendment. I believe in a limited government, and I believe that the role of government is to operate responsibly and ethically. I've been serving on the Mason Planning Commission for the last 2 years now. I'm also currently serving as the Warren County Republican Party Central Committee Vice Chairman. I manage 2 small businesses. For the last 17 years, I've run Hunterlaw Construction Remodeling, and for the last 2 years, I've been running Hunterlaw Lawn Care Services. Did I mention I have 2 teenage boys? I mentioned earlier that sometimes our choices are hard in politics. I agree with Congressman Jim Jordan, who says that people hate when they see politicians do these 2 things. I want to finish my point. They hate it when politicians campaign one way and then act a completely different way when they're elected into office. The other thing they hate the double standard. The one where politicians get to act one way, one for politicians and a different way for the average system. Wow, I read this way faster in practice. It's my goal when elected to City Council to bring greater transparency to office and to help Mason run responsibly and ethically. Again, my name is TJ Hunterlaw, and I'm running for Mason City Council.
Hello, I want to take a moment to thank the Mason Deerfield Chamber for allowing us to speak tonight, and thank you everyone in the audience for taking time out of your night to be here. My name is Diana Nelson, and I've been a resident of Mason for the last 17 years. My late husband and I moved here from Dallas. He passed away 13 years ago, and I decided to stay here and raise my daughters, even though we didn't have family and knew very few people. I have 3 daughters that are currently going through the Mason school system. One has already graduated. I received my undergraduate degree from the University of Texas at Dallas in accounting. I received my master's degree in taxation from the University of Cincinnati. I took a comparative tax policy and procedure course from Harvard University in Boston, Massachusetts. This program has allowed me to meet with tax commissioners and policymakers from 22 other countries, where we studied and analyzed how governments handle their tax procedures and the best way to implement them. I'm currently serving on Mason City Council. I am the chair of the Finance Committee, and I serve on 5 other committees within the city. I was appointed by the Treasury of the United States to serve on a federal executive advisory committee to the IRS. I am in the 2nd year of a 3-year term. I am the only individual representing Ohio at this time. I serve on the Board of Trustees for the Ohio Municipal League. I also serve on the Board of Trustees as the treasurer for Blue Skies for the Good Guys and Gals Warrior Foundation. It is a charity that supports and helps veterans and Gold Star families. I am a CPA and I have a small tax practice. My full-time job, I am the Chief Financial Officer of a multi-million-dollar background check company. We screen pre-employment applicants. I feel very blessed to be able to use my extensive knowledge in both the business world and city government to give back to the community in which I live. I would appreciate your vote to keep me on Mason City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Josh Stricula, and I want to put everybody at ease. You don't have to pronounce nor spell my name on November 7th. You just have to circle the bubble next to it. I'm a father and a husband. I think that's my most important job. My kids are actually out there. Hey, boys. Hey, fellas. If I continue to improve in those 2 areas, I think that those skills will transfer over to other areas of my life. I'm a business owner, an entrepreneur, real estate investor. I started my first company in college, and we bought a house. It was rental real estate. I actually own that house still today. In 2012, I started a nonprofit to help bring young professionals in the area together to provide a platform to give back to the community. And because of that, I was actually awarded the top 40 under 40 in the Dayton area, which is the top 40 professionals under the age of 40 in that area. I'm a certified financial planner, certified investment management analyst. I've been in the finance industry for a little over 12 years now, working with families just like yours, mitigating risks where necessary, developing strategies to meet their unique needs, and managing wealth. I'm a veteran. I served 9 years in the Army National Guard, 2 tours overseas, and spent some time in Mississippi providing humanitarian relief for Hurricane Katrina victims. It's these types of experiences, this unique education and background, that I think makes me uniquely qualified to be on council. And it's my hope that as we progress through the evening and get closer to the election, you learn more about me, that I will have earned the right to receive your vote and the honor to represent you as you're on City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. For our first question, we'll be starting with Mr. Bradburn and ending with Mr. Chance. So we'll go to Mr. Stricula next, now Ms. Nelson, Mr. Honorlo, Mr. Gilb, and then Mr. Chance. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond, and everybody will have 30 seconds for a rebuttal after everybody has answered the question. Downtown Mason has been a discussion point for years on council. What is your position on the redevelopment of downtown? Mr. Bradburn, 60 seconds.
Having been on council when we had what you would call a redevelopment, the sprucing up of downtown, I think right now what downtown needs and what the city needs is from the stakeholders, the residents, and everybody, a master plan. And there is no master plan that's in place. And you're going to have a master plan before you go ahead and continue to expenditures of these monies. And there's a conflict. There's a conflict between traffic and buildings. And the bottom line is, the law of physics, you can't put two things in the same place at the same time. So somehow we have to come to an agreement. I will commend here one facility that indicated that they would go ahead, or business, that they would go ahead and make improvements to their business, and that was the U.S. Pharmacy. I saw that, but not much has really changed. Underground utilities and some trees gone and some nice street lights. And we got sidewalks repaired.
Mr. Stracula.
Thank you. There's been a lot of positive improvements downtown. I think that the city has tried to improve. I think that there's, obviously it's difficult, otherwise it would have been done already. We have to make downtown, we have to make it an attractive area, and we have to attract the right types of businesses to bring people downtown. And that takes a couple of three-pronged approach, if you will, right? There's got to be beautification projects, and that includes making it more walkable. There needs to be small business incentives for the types of businesses that we want to bring downtown. And then there also needs to be programming. We saw a lot of that this summer. I think we started to see downtown a little bit more lively, if you will. More people are going downtown. So it can't be one of those. We've got to do all three. And if we can do all three and we can do it well, then I think what we'll start to see is a revitalization of downtown. Thank you.
Improving downtown Mason has been a focus of much discussion over the last few years. We need new restaurants and we need retail in downtown to make it a focal point for our residents to gather. By doing this, we maintain and help grow our current business as well. One of my immediate goals is to secure a business plan to make downtown Mason come alive. Mason is a blend of cultures, which is something I'm very proud of. But one area in which we are severely lacking is an inclusive and vibrant arts community. As a lifelong patron of the arts, it is a top priority of mine to assist in the development of a robust visual and performance cultural in Mason. I will also support the continuation of music in Mason, which has been a great success after its launch this year. Bringing our residents and our families together will strengthen our community. It improves our civic image, promotes diversity, it will attract tourism, inspire businesses and investments, will create jobs, and ultimately increase tax revenue.
When I first read this, I thought, what development do I not know about that's already happening, the way that was worded. I live downtown, and I'm downtown all the time, and of course, being born and raised here, I've seen the changes where we're at, and I would love to see downtown completely flourish and the businesses prosper there. I believe what Tony said is accurate. I don't think there is a master plan, and that we definitely need to start with a good plan. Having that helps. The other thing is, if we look at what Two Cities has done and what they've brought in and how they've affected downtown, I think we can all say that is just an awesome plus. But what we have to remember is, what's the role of government in this position? And other than outside of giving tax abatements, this is all privately owned businesses, and so we have to, I think the businesses work best when the government steps back out of the way. And so we want to assist, not provide the success for them.
Yeah, having served on council for a couple years before this, certainly we've wrestled with the development of downtown Mason, and certainly that needs to continue to be a focus of council in finding ways to bring that master plan for development to help and assist those businesses that are there to develop to the extent they can and to improve their operations. I think bringing in new growth new employment opportunities into the downtown arena will certainly help foster the development of downtown. And as Diana has indicated, restaurants, retail operations, those are the kind of things that we need to be pursuing as a city and bringing them in and giving them the opportunity and number one, keeping government out of their way so that they can do the things that they do best in growing their operations. Thanks.
All some really good answers, and I agree with a lot of it. But what I also have got to see is that there's a lot of momentum here, and there is a lot of attention being paid to here. There's a lot of brilliant minds. I see a few of them in the audience tonight that we've put together some business owners, some downtown business owners. I've had conversations with several of them about what does this look like? What are we going to do? And I believe we're right there, where the momentum that's coming with the conversations that we're having. I think we're getting very, very close to seeing some very tangible change. I live downtown. Like I said, my business is at 123 East Main Street, and I would love to see nothing more than the downtown flourish. And we walk in the staple of two cities. I mean, that is a prime example of what we can have down there on Saturday night. Walk into the Whippy Dip from my house. I hear music. And by the way, music, the downtown festivals, I will support that because that's getting energy and that's bringing people downtown. So it's coming. It's very close, and there's a ton of momentum.
At this time, each of you have 30 seconds, if you so choose, for rebuttal. In no particular order.
I don't know if I necessarily have a rebuttal, but the thing that I did want to, our downtown committee that has created some of those concert series, I hear the buzz, and I hear a lot of people out in the community saying, we're going to do more of that. I want to come downtown. You see people riding their bikes downtown. And I think that's essential to getting the energy and the people downtown to frequent the restaurants and the other businesses. And that's happening. And so, like I said, there's a ton of momentum there.
And I'd probably like to add on to that we have a new development coming in next to the Cowan properties. And so we're bringing in residents right in downtown that are going to be living there. And I think as we bring people to downtown within walking distance, it can't help but grow that way.
I just want to add an extra point that, because I agree with a couple of the comments that were made, that businesses need to lead the way, right? The council is not going to fix this. The government cannot fix this. But we can facilitate the process in which it gets done with businesses leading the way. There's a diverse community down there, and I've spoken to some of those business owners, and there's a lot of different views on what to do downtown and how they would do it. So we can help facilitate those discussions. We can help facilitate that change, but we're not going to be the reason for that change.
All right, thank you. And we're going to move into more of a speed lightning round. From a logistics standpoint, it might be better to pass the mic, but I'll leave that up to all of you. So in speed round form, this question is designed to have a few words response, no rebuttal. So starting with Mr. Hunterlaw and moving this way, ending with Mr. Gilb. How long have you lived in the city of Mason?
I've lived in the city of Mason 50 plus years. So I've lived here all my life.
17 years.
9 years.
19 years, 3 months, and 17 days.
Well, that's 37 years and 3 months.
10 years.
All right, thank you. In the same speed round form, we're going to start with Mr. Gilb, and we'll end with Mr. Hunterlaw, so it's going to go the opposite direction. How many times have you voted in local elections during your residency?
I would say I voted in every election.
I would echo that, every election.
Every election, and you can check the Board of Elections for the records. They only go back to 2010.
I have not missed any.
I'm not sure of the exact number. I know I have missed a few. As a widow raising 3 small children, it was at times, daily tasks were difficult. So I didn't always stay on top of local issues. I feel if you're not on top of the issues on the ballot, you should not vote, and therefore I did miss a few. Thank you.
Thank you.
I routinely vote in all the elections, and I don't recall ever missing an opportunity to vote.
Thank you. So we'll have one more question in the speed round form, but we're gonna expand on it slightly. So starting with Mr. Chance and then ending with Mr. Bradburn. You will each have the opportunity to share a few sentences, but we ask that you keep your response to 30 seconds. There will be no rebuttals to this question. The Chamber, as all of you know, developed a candidate questionnaire this year that all of you participated in. Your vision included the 3 things you would like to achieve in office. What is your top priority, and how will you go about achieving it if elected? Mr. Chance, 30 seconds.
Sure. It's kind of funny. I don't know if it's the top priority because there's a lot of important ones, like I said, that are going on. But I think the downtown is the one I hear the most in regards to the community. So for me, that is where I think we need to pay attention to. And I wrote down 3, and the other 2 are very important as well. But I think, getting and rolling up our sleeves and continuing the momentum of what's going on downtown. That's why I hear the residents wanting.
Thank you. Mr. Guild?
I would say our major focus would be keeping our taxes low, keeping the tax burden under control, and hand in hand that goes with spending, keeping spending under control. Those are important to keeping our economy growing and vibrant, and those are priorities I think we need to remain focused on.
I did have 3 good, important points that I'd like to see happen, but if I had to pick one, I would probably say improving transparency. I believe the City of Mason just this year came on to the Ohio checkbook, and I saw that when they did that, this is Josh Randell's, so it helps improve the transparency of what's going on through our public servants, and to be able to see when Mason did do that, I believe they only went back 2 years instead of, I think most communities went back 5. I'd like to see us go back 5 years, and then I'd like to make it easier and simpler to access.
With the passing of House Bill 49, it has had a grave impact on the City of Mason. House Bill 49 allows the state of Ohio to collect our business income tax directly from our taxpayers. After collecting this tax, Ohio will take a fee off the top before they redistribute the funds back to our city. I have been very vocal in trying to fight the state of Ohio on this issue to keep Mason tax dollars in Mason. Without being able to rely on the state of Ohio, we need to focus on economic development to make sure that we have revenue coming in. Also, keeping up with urban green space, developing our parks, bike trails, and walking trails. Thank you.
I'd like to say the downtown, but I also want to be realistic. That's been a long-term, I think, project. So I think, more importantly, regional economic development, sustainable, prudent regional economic development, working with our partners within the townships and neighboring communities, I think, is probably the most important, but doing it in a very prudent way. Well, thank you.
Bottom line, it's stable finances year to year. That's one of the main things that the city needs. If it doesn't have any stable finances, it can be a real problem. We do not need to be, or our budgets should not be developed on a daily basis based upon day-to-day revenues from either the state or the feds. I think if any of us that have been in local government for a while understand the state and the federal government are not local government's friend.
For our next question, we're going to turn this over to you, the candidates, and allow you the opportunity to ask one question to any one of your opponents up on the stage. We ask that you keep your responses brief, between 30 and 60 seconds, and anybody can choose to begin. Mr. Chance.
Yeah, this is for Councilmember Nelson. You brought up, I know you're passionate about the House Bill 49, and that's been a big priority, and I've actually got to learn a lot about it from her. But aside from that, what's your other top priority if elected?
The number one priority for Mason City Council, and in fact should always be our top priority, is to build a cohesive team with singular goal for the betterment of the community. We need to work together to formulate a plan that we, as council, want to achieve for our community within the first 12 months and every successive year during our term. Personally, as a CPA, I am passionate about keeping our tax rates low and our tax dollars in Mason. Low tax rates help keep jobs in Mason and brings in new business. As a taxpayer advocate, I will always be a strong advocate for our taxpayers. Similarly, as the chair of the Finance Committee, I believe that it is also a priority to keep our budget balanced and to vote against unnecessary spending. We need to continue to pay down our debt and keep our city's AAA bond rating because it is critical to keeping our interest rates low, which in turn frees up more funds to use for our civic improvements and ultimately keeps our taxes down. So you see, teamwork for the betterment of all citizens of Mason is a collective goal, and fiduciary responsibility and careful tax and spending oversight is my personal goal.
And Ms. Nelson, would you like to ask a question of any of your opponents?
Yes, I'll ask Ashley Chance. Outside of city council and work, what other things do you do in the community?
Wow, that's kind of a loaded question, but it's there's a couple things that kind of come to my mind as we started a nonprofit, my wife and I did, called New Chance Foundation, that helps out children with mobility issues at home. We actually were fortunate enough to get Extreme Home Makeover here back in 2008, and we went on our honeymoon, and like, that was fun. What do we do now? So we started that, and that's going well, and that's a lot of fun. The other thing is I attend Crossroads, very involved there, and in this heroin epidemic. I think this is something that, for me, I was at a meeting this morning, and we've been able to raise over $500,000, hire 3 care coordinators. We're buying a transition house for people coming out of rehab, and that is something that we must continue to pay attention to and roll up our sleeves and fight, because this thing is ugly. I think it's a chemical demon, and we need to figure out a way to eradicate it.
Mr. Chance, you've already asked your question, so I will open it up to the other candidates to ask a question of anybody you choose.
I hate to pick on Diana, but I was going to ask a similar question about, I know you've mentioned House Bill 49, and I wonder if you could just elaborate on what's happening at the state level in terms of what they're doing with Mason business taxes.
Sure. So House Bill 49 was introduced, and it will, it's a centralized tax collection. So they are going to be requiring businesses to submit their income tax payments to the state of Ohio. State of Ohio then will take a fee and redistribute the money back to Mason. Mason has been collecting their own income taxes for years, and we do a great job of it. So getting the state of Ohio involved is unnecessary, and it's costing our city money. I have spent the last year testifying in front of the Ways and Means Committee and the Senate Finance Committee fighting centralized taxation and sticking up for our city as well as many other cities. The city of Mason has joined in the fight with 115 other municipalities to fight the state of Ohio and to try to reverse this.
Mr. Bradburn.
It's my understanding right now it's a proposal in regards to centralized collection. Is that correct?
That is not correct. House Bill 49 passed on July 1st.
Then I think the Ohio Municipal League...
You get only one question.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Then we will move on. Starting with Ms. Nelson and ending with Mr. Stricula, each of you will again have 60 seconds to respond to our next question, and there will be a 30-second rebuttal opportunity for each of you at the end. With the local economy and economic development efforts being a top priority for the Mason Deerfield Chamber, we would like to get your thoughts and perspective on how to keep our region moving forward. Understanding that the role of City Council members is primarily legislative, what types of businesses would you like to see attracted to the City of Mason, and what economic development tools do you support deploying in this effort? Ms. Nelson, 60 seconds.
It's kind of a couple questions in one. Mason targets high-tech, med-tech, and biohealth companies in anticipation of long-term relationship with incremental income to the city of Mason via net profits tax and payroll tax. To do that, we need to market ourselves regionally to keep Mason on the map as a destination for all businesses of all sizes. We need to utilize our resources available to us through effective use of regional Chamber of Commerce platforms, national organization participation, universal social media applications. Business incentives, low tax rates, infrastructure improvements, and zoning assistance are critical to business development, and Mason has always been on the cutting edge. We use strategy and techniques unique for governmental entities, and it has proven successful. We need to continue to promote economic growth through innovation, because innovation creates jobs, stimulates growth, and brings value to our city.
Thank you. Mr. Hunterlaw, same question.
Yeah, so Mason derives its income through an earning tax. So we want, of course, high-paying jobs with large employees. I think an example of that is what's happening in the innovation corridor right now, where we have the medical, engineering, and technology jobs. What we can do to attract them is simply the tax abatements. So we collect the property tax in order to get that earning tax. I'm sorry. We give up the property tax in order to collect the earning tax.
Mr. Gilb?
I think our primary focus should be on workforce development, making sure that we have an educated workforce, and certainly we heard before from the school board candidates. So supporting our schools, supporting education, making sure that the students that we have coming out of our schools are prepared to do the jobs that are going to be here in Mason for them. As you've heard, we've been seeking high-tech, medical, high-wage paying jobs, and we need an educated workforce that's going to be able to meet those challenges. Also keeping our tax burden low and keeping government out of the way, I think, are the important things in terms of developing Mason's economy. I think we're standing on the shoulders of some great city leaders that have led us in the past, that have done a great job of seeing our economy develop and grow, and I want to see us continue to support those efforts as we move forward.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the biotech, but I don't know a whole heck of a lot about it. But I got to meet Dr. Lamb last week and sat next to him at a dinner and talking about this innovation and what's going on in the biotech world. AssureRx is a huge example of this, and what we're seeing, and to know that some of that technology is being birthed right here in Mason. I would love to see that and be able to have conversations and say, hey, yeah, I know the company. They're right here in our backyard. Also, just tech in general. I was at a ComSpark event last week at the Manor House, and the CIO of Hewlett-Packard was there from San Francisco, and I got to give an introductory speech there, and afterwards we talked a little bit about the Mason Tech Elevator, and he was blown away that we were able to form that public-private partnership. And so he was, so being able to foster those type of things, and the economic development strategies, it's not a cookie-cutter situation. So I think we've got the best economic development team in the business, and I would just listen to them and vet those out and go from there.
There's no doubt about it, the high-tech, first-class office, the health industrial is what any city wants, every city wants. The city does have resources to go, or the ability to go ahead and provide inducements for those businesses to locate in the city. Sometimes it can be a TIF to go ahead and put an improvement around that business. It will go ahead and entice them to come into the city. Sometimes it can be a tax abatement for machinery or whatever. And there are some high-end machinery operations that are clean. They require a skilled workforce. And this is where you want to balance. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. We don't know what's going to happen on some of these blossoming industries.
I heard Amazon's looking for some new headquarters. Super. I like the biotech companies. The tech companies, we're already doing a great job with that, so it's just a matter of continuing to do that. I would almost like to see more of these unique restaurants, these boutique retail shops, the things that we've talked about already. We've talked about downtown a couple of times, but these are the types of things that will draw people downtown. Something with outdoor seating and live music, and something that is unique to the Mason area, and attracting those types of businesses. And you do that, and we've mentioned a lot of the strategies already: tax abatements, making the zoning code appropriate to help facilitate those if we need to. Again, we're not going to do that, but we can facilitate and make it attractive, and make it an attractive place for those types of businesses to come.
Thank you. You each have 30 seconds for rebuttal. Then we will move on.
All right, starting with Mr. Stricula and ending with Mr. Bradburn. Each of you will have 60 seconds each to respond, again with an opportunity to offer a 30-second rebuttal after each candidate has responded. At the end of every candidate responding, I apologize, I read that incorrectly. So along the topic of regionalism, do you support regionalism with Deerfield Township? And if so, give one specific example of a way you would demonstrate your support of regionalism and how you would achieve it. Mr. Stricula?
Yes, and I'd pick up the phone and call them. I think it starts with communication. I think that that's what we need. I've already spoken to Eric Reiners, who's the township administrator, and talked to him about how we can work together. I've spoken to the candidates for trustee and kind of shared that vision with them, that this is necessary. We're too interconnected to sit here and operate as independent entities. We need to have a regional outlook. It's better for both communities, and it's better for us to work together to get there and have that shared vision. And again, I think it starts with communication. I think it just starts with a simple phone call, and let's sit down, let's have a conversation about it.
We do better when we work together. That's a quote that was once applied to our nation, and it can just as easily be applied to our region. Mason and Deerfield Township working together will improve regional economic development and the standard of living for both of our communities. Regional economic growth can serve to improve our schools, provide funding for infrastructure improvements, and help to better sell our area on a national stage. Part of that, we need to look at revisiting and sharing some of our essential services, like fire and EMS, because the safety of our residents is my top priority. Putting the past aside, I am committing to working with our neighbors for the safety and for the benefit of all of our citizens here in Mason.
So I would say not just Deerfield, but all the municipalities and communities that are around us, we need to be able to work together with. I think that if we continue to coordinate on the roadway projects, I think maybe they currently share like even the blacktop and the salt purchases, but it's great to see how we came together even with the fire situation with the different. I think right now we currently will. It's whoever responds first. It's whether it's in Deerfield or Mason, and so things like that type of cooperation I think is huge. I think, yeah, Deerfield can respond first to Mason and vice versa. So anyway, I think that works terrific.
Yeah, to answer your question, yes, I certainly support regionalism. I certainly believe that Mason does the things it does best and should continue to do the things it does best, but certainly communicating with our partners in the broader community is important in terms of keeping everyone growing at the same rate and seeing the economies of the whole area grow. Those are important things that we can do, and certainly maintaining those lines of communication with the Deerfield Township trustees, maintaining lines of communication with all of our neighboring communities is important in terms of being able to develop the way we need to develop.
I'd completely concur with Mr. Stricula that open communication is the foundation for reasonable minds, and this what it's going to do for us is going to create trust, right? And when there's trust, you can reach over the borders and you can communicate and you guys can work together. And I know I've been around for an awful long time and involved on kind of the peripheral of politics, and knowing that it's not always been hunky-dory between us. But earlier this spring, early summer, we were able to sit in a room together over at the Marriott, all the council members, all the trustees, city managers, and we had a great conversation of what this looks like. And I truly felt there was nothing but trust, and our communication was great. So I would continue to foster that, and I would continue to make sure that we are communicating in an open manner. Plus, I love the JEDs, and I love those type of opportunities that I would look at on a case-by-case scenario with them.
Regionalism is a wonderful thing, but it takes two parties to dance. And for those that haven't been elected a number of years ago, the city offered that to Deerfield Township when we built Station 51. We offered them sleeping quarters and a bay for an engine, which they said they wanted to staff. They walked away from it. There was no cooperation on that. And that's something you have to look at before you go ahead and spend the taxpayers' money of the city of Mason if a party does not want to participate in it. We have participated in pavement programs and street programs, but the bottom line is it takes two parties to dance in regards to that. It's a wonderful thing if it'll work, and the city of Mason has offered that in the past.
Thank you. Does anyone have any rebuttals they would like to add?
I do.
Ms. Nelson?
That was prior council, and current council, as of today, we enjoy working with Deerfield, and we hope that we can work with them more. And there may have been some issues in the past, but that really didn't carry forward onto new council.
Thank you. And just to add into that statement, that's an important question for the chamber. We're newly rebranded as of 2015 with the emphasis of really trying to find ways to unify the two communities where it makes sense, especially from a business perspective, because with all due respect, political subdivision lines do not define our business success. And so it's really important for us to know your positions on that as a chamber, so we thank you for your input on that this evening.
And thank you all for a wonderful conversation tonight. To end the evening, we're giving you each 60 seconds for a concluding statement. We'll proceed in alphabetical order with Mr. Bradburn.
Once again, thank you to the chamber, and thank you to the people here in the audience. It has been a pleasure to serve on Mason Council for the 8 years I did. I would appreciate your vote again to continue to make Mason the star in Southwest Ohio. There's many communities that are very, very envious of what previous councils have done and what this council has done. And I hope to be able to build on that by being elected on November the 7th. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys again for putting this together. This is definitely important to get all the candidates up and understanding where the stances are and positions. So I'm a business guy, and that's what I think I touched about on it earlier. That's my philosophy, and I think that is something that we do a great job of here at the City of Mason. And there's a lot of exciting things going on, and I'm not done yet. I want to roll up my sleeves and continue to work hard. There's some economic development strategies. I got to sit in a luncheon the other day that, we're talking to a $2 billion company, and that excites me because I'm a small business owner, but being able to see this on a scale of where we are with the city and the staff that we have behind us in order to be able to pull those type of things off is exciting. And I'm not done. And I hope on November 7th, if my philosophies are in line with yours, I would hope that you would cast your vote for me. I appreciate it, and thanks again.
Likewise, I want to certainly thank the Chamber, thank all of you for coming out and supporting us, learning about the candidates, learning about the issues that affect us all. And I do say I want to humbly ask for your vote for Mike Gill for Mason City Council. I think we need trusted conservative leaders to keep us moving forward. As I mentioned before, we're standing on the shoulders of some great city leaders who have given us a great city, a great economy, and I want to continue to foster the development of that city and that economy, and that's why I'm running. I urge my colleagues in Columbus to act like conservatives, and I want to promise to you that I will ask the members of council that I serve with to act like conservatives also. I know that without a vision, the people perish. I have a vision. It's simple. It's to provide conservative leadership, to promote growth and opportunity, and to protect local residents. I've served on council before. We dealt with many important issues that came before us, and I've been engaged in leading the fight to protect local residents. I can't do it alone. I need your support and your vote. So again, I want to ask you to vote for Mike Gill for Mason City Council. Thanks for your time tonight.
Yeah, thanks so much for having this, you guys. This was great. So as a fellow business owner, this is a chamber event, and being self-employed and being the son and grandson of all self-employed, my father and grandfathers were all self-employed businessmen. I know what it's like to sign the front of a check, and I know the responsibility that comes with that. I also know the importance of being financially responsive while at the same time being fiscally responsible. My goal is to use that knowledge and expertise to help Mason run efficiently and pay down its own debt, and to increase fiscal transparency, and to responsibly manage Mason's growth and density and traffic while at the same time preserving its charm and heritage. You have many choices, and really there are 6 of us running for 4 seats. There are 4 open seats that 6 of us are running for. I'm TJ Hunter Law, and I hope I've earned your vote today.
I want to thank you for taking time out of your night to get to know me as a candidate. Mason is my home, and I have worked hard these past few years to move Mason forward. I am a businesswoman. I will run this city like a business, where return on investment is high, spending is low, and budgets are balanced. It will take a strong team to fight the state of Ohio, but it must be done. The Ohio Municipal League has spent a lot of time working on this issue, and they have been a great advocate for our city. I will continue to work with them to do what is necessary to stop centralized tax collection. With my background as a CPA and my experience working with Columbus and Washington, I am the most qualified candidate to take on this issue for all Mason taxpayers. I ask for your support so I can continue to put pressure on lawmakers to stop centralized tax collection. My family has made a lifetime commitment to Mason. On November 7th, I ask for your support in allowing me to continue to serve our community as a member of Mason City Council for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you, Mason Deerfield Chamber, for setting this up. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I don't envy you as a voter this fall. There are 6 qualified candidates up here, and it's a tough decision. And I mentioned before, I'm a financial planner. I've managed and have managed millions of dollars for families just like yours and mine, from a recent West Point graduate to a multimillionaire business owner. And the one thing that they had in common is that they trusted me to manage their wealth and make decisions and changes for them based on their best interests and their goals. And when I think about City Council, at its core, isn't that what we're doing? Aren't you entrusting us to manage your tax dollars to the best of our ability for your goals and the betterment of the city as a whole? And when I think about stuff like that in that way, I don't know that there's anybody more qualified to serve you. And I would be honored to receive your vote on November 7th. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, everyone. And genuinely, thank you for your willingness to serve your community. This work really matters, and we are greatly appreciative that all of you are putting yourselves in this position on behalf of our community. Just a couple of housekeeping items. On the Chamber website, there are candidate questionnaires for those watching at home. We've got access to that information on our website, as well as this has been broadcasted through ICRC television and on our Facebook Live website and Facebook page. But thank you again for all of you for being here. Thank you to the residents for being here, for your time. And don't forget to vote on November 7th. Thank you.